Anyway, let's dive right in, Alan. So you have a new DVD that came out live in the Netherlands, The Never Ending Show. Can you tell me a little bit about how it came about, why you decided to film that particular show? That was at the end of a European run you were doing in 2019, right?
That's right. We um, we we've always had a terrific response to, and sold out shows in Holland, the Netherlands. So we thought it would be a great idea because it would be virtually a guaranteed packed house that we would film it. We actually filmed two shows on that Dutch tour, but we chose what we think is the best show of the two. Mm-hmm. There was one in Amsterdam and one in Utrecht, and we recorded that as well as, obviously, the audio was recorded as well as the visuals, and it came out great. And it was just released last week with a new bonus studio track, which gives the record its title. It's called The Never Ending Show, and that came out really well. It's featuring my son-in-law on the vocal, and we shot a video, a dedicated music video for that. At this amazing place just south of Los Angeles, where they store an enormous array of circus and festival memorabilia. It's an extraordinary place. They have such a huge collection of stuff, and we had unlimited access to it, so it was great. So you'll see.
Yeah.
I assume you still haven't managed to get a copy yet, right?
No, I haven't got a copy. I've watched a couple of the clips on YouTube. I did see the music video though, and I've been reading about it. But that must be quite a task, right? To put together a live show, finding the right director and all the cameras and budgeting and all of that. That's quite a task, right?
It is, but the producers have been incredible. They not only shot the show, the live shows, they also directed and produced the music video. So and on top of that, they've done all the artwork, all the cover up and stuff. So they've been absolutely a magnificent asset for me.
Yeah. So like you said, the album also, you have a new studio track, The Never Ending Show, with Jordan Huffman, right? So what can we look forward to in 22? I'm guessing you have a new album in the works.
Yes, I've got a band arriving tomorrow to put down some tracks. Two of them are coming from Nashville, Tennessee, flying in tomorrow, and three others are coming from the LA area, and we'll be in the studio for pretty much solidly for a full week, and that will be followed by a period of overdubs, vocals, and what have you, I'm sure, and they'll be back again in December to do another stint, and I'm really hopeful that I can get this album finished by Christmas if I can.
Wow. Is this the same band that you went out on the road with?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's not to say that it would be only the live band appearing on the album. On The Secret, for example, I got literally the band from heaven. I got Nathan East on bass and Vinny Cagliotto on drums. So that was. So I'm going to be doing another orchestral piece with those guys. So we're working on the arrangement for that right now.
Fantastic.
Not the logistic arrangement, the musical arrangement.
I want to ask, how do you go about finding the right person or the right set of musicians for every album? So whether it's with the Alan Parsons Project or what you're doing now, what is that process like? Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because the selection of obviously the musicians and the singers kind of give each album its own unique sound and mood and all of that. So what is that process like?
It's a good question. We've been very lucky over the years to choose keys for the songs that we record in advance of knowing who's actually going to sing them. So we play. I think we perhaps play a little bit safe with vocal range. I remember one exception was way back on the Eve album. There's a song called "Don't Hold Back." We had heard all assumed it was going to be a male vocal, and then suddenly we decided to make it a female vocal, and we brought in Claire Torrey, who's the famous voice of Dark Side of the Moon, and it was just not right for her key, so we literally almost rewrote the song to be in her range.
Mm-hmm.
So, but normally we're lucky. We choose a key that will suit, most singers. If we know for sure that I've got a vocal with a vocalist with an extended range, then we'll maybe take it up a few steps. But yeah, we've been very lucky in that respect.
Mm-hmm. So the new album you spoke about in 22, is it going to be a thematic concept album like The Secret? The Secret also had, like you said, big orchestration, and it had a very large sonic scope, right? So what is this album going to be like?
I'm hoping that the sonic scope, as you call it, will be pretty much the same. There will definitely be some orchestration, as always, but it's actually fairly early stages at the moment. We're just considering what songs to record. There is a concept, but I'd rather keep that a little bit under wraps for the moment, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. But you're obviously going to be touring with the album. So what can fans expect in terms of a production with the live show? I ask because I'm wondering how, if for example you go out on tour trying to promote a concept album, how do you extend the concept of that album beyond the parameters of the album itself?
Well, it's difficult to do that live, of course, and we obviously wouldn't play the entire record, although I remember David Gilmour once released an album, and he was touring, and he played every song from the album, just literally played it start to finish. But I think we don't have that luxury. We've got to play some of the hits. If we didn't play hits, they would not buy tickets. So it's essentially a hits show. Yeah. But we will definitely be playing songs from the new album. We don't actually go abroad. We don't go outside America until February. So the first shows on the calendar are in Florida and Atlanta, Georgia, and North Carolina, all in January. Fingers crossed that that we're able to do those shows without any fear for the virus. So
yeah.
Then this tour is being branded the Turn of a Friendly Card anniversary tour. So we'll be playing several songs from that album, including the piece itself, the Turn of a Friendly Card, which is a sort of 5 or 6 song medley. We'll be playing that.
Mm-hmm. Do you prefer to play live, or do you prefer to work in the studio, Alan?
I'm usually more comfortable in the studio because that was my growing up activity. It's what I started doing. Playing live didn't happen way into my career in the mid 90s. Yeah. So I'm definitely I feel I'm also more talented in the studio than I am on stage.
But do you think
very, very satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the Alan Parsons project itself would have been bigger in a sense if you had started playing live earlier?
Oh, without a doubt. We could have become a stadium act, literally. We had top 5 albums in the late 70s, early 80s. Had we assembled a band, particularly with a symphony orchestra, I think it could have been huge. But for one reason or another, Eric didn't feel the need to play live, and my role would have been a little odd as a studio producer. Mm-hmm. We did do one show in Antwerp at an event called the Night of the Proms, where for most of the show I was actually at the console, mm-hmm. Talking to the audience, introducing the songs from the console. But that soon wore very thin, and the audience just simply weren't interested in looking at me at the soundboard. They just wanted to see what was going on stage.
Yeah.
And as the final songs got played, I would leave the console and hit the stage and pick up a guitar and play. Mm-hmm. But that format was very short-lived, and when we started playing live for real in the mid-90s with Ian Benson, Stuart Elliott, Andrew Powell, all people I'd worked with on the Alan Parsons projects in the past. We put a band together, made an album, and toured for the first time.
Yeah.
Starting in Germany, as I remember.
Mm-hmm. How inspired were you by Pink Floyd in the early days, and then Roger Waters, before you started doing these concept albums, Alan? Or for that matter, how inspired were you by film and books, to put out these kind of concept albums?
The concepts generally always came from Eric. They were always his idea. I mean, he tells the mystery. The Edgar Allan Poe, the first APP album was definitely his brainchild. He had read Poe's work extensively, and somewhat funnily, he also studied marketing at college, and mm-hmm. he had learned through that college course that no movie based on an Edgar Allan Poe story had ever lost money. So he thought applying his work to music should achieve a similar result. So that's what we did. But I loved Poe too. I read it extensively at school. Everybody likes a good horror story, it's good. Yeah. And I think it was a great subject to base songs upon.
Yeah.
And Eric actually made a follow-up on his own in later years for a show at Abbey Road, which I wasn't involved with. But.
Yeah, and like you're saying, I guess it had never been done before, so made sense. But I want to ask, how do you, in an era that we live in today, where music is very commoditized, and we live essentially in an era of singles and things like that, how do you make music relevant for a modern audience, right, without losing your core sound? How do you kind of walk that line?
I'm kind of a stickler for not following trends. My sound, was created in the 70s, and I don't really think it's necessary to change that sound. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are fashions in drum sounds, for example. There was a period where drum sounds used a lot of electronic drums during a certain period in the 80s. But no, I've never felt the need to follow trends or follow fashions. So I'm going to continue to record the way I always do. Band in the studio. I mean, it's not as if I ignore technology. I mean, I make a reasonable amount of use of synthesizers and sequencers, and of course, everything is recorded these days to hard disk. But the basic principle of the way I work has really not changed over the years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was reading an interview with Steven Wilson, I think, when you just around the time that you worked with him, and he spoke about, how he wanted to recreate the essentially the warmth of an analog recording, right, or a 70s sound, I think he called it then. So do you think that's still possible today with technology and all of that to kind of recreate?
Well, I think we succeeded admirably in achieving what he wanted for that album, the Raven That Refused to Sing.
Yeah,
he's an incredible talent, and it was a big honor for me because he's such a talented engineer as well and producer as well. Yeah. For him to make the call to me and bring me in to work with him was a great privilege. It really was.
Yeah, but tell me, Alan, in a lot of these collaborations, how much creative control do you have? Whether it was Pink Floyd in the early days or Steven Wilson. Now, I know your role itself might have been obviously different, but how much creative control do you have where you can influence the sound of final output?
I mean, the technology as you see fit, equalization, compression, echo effects, delay effects, and so on. So you just do that and hope that the artist or the people you're working with will agree with you. I mean, of course, they have the right to say, no, we don't like that very much.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, as a producer, as opposed to an engineer, as a producer, you have much greater control, and that's the way it should be. There's got to be one boss. You can't have too many bosses, otherwise it would just be chaotic.
Yeah.
So for the Alan Parsons Project and for all the albums since that have had my name on them, I've been the producer and therefore the main production force behind them all.
Yeah. You don't do a lot of engineering work now, right? You don't.
Not exclusively as an engineer. No, I'm more likely to seek at least a co-production credit, and that's what happened with Steven.
Yeah, because I saw that Porcupine Tree are back and they put out a new single, so I was actually hoping that you might end up working with them.
I'm just waiting for the phone to ring. He's like I said, he's an incredibly talented guy, and we actually did an interview together to promote the last album, and also to promote a hi-fi convention in Munich in Germany, which sadly has been cancelled twice now because of COVID. Sorry, but you've got a whimpering dog here.
Yeah.
You're not using the sound, are you? Or I mean, are you just writing this piece, or are you going to play the audio as well?
I'd like to play the audio because we do play the audio.
Okay.
We have quite a large audience on Spotify. Anyway, Alan, I think it's 30 minutes, and I think I've taken enough of your time. But thank you.
Well, I was 5 minutes late. If you want a couple more questions, it's fine.
Sure. I want to ask you about. Yeah. Absolutely. I want to ask you about a project that you were involved with many years ago. It was with a band called the Subclones.
Right. That was just basically just a Parsons spin-off and a spin-off for PJ Olsen, the singer in the band. it was a duo, and it was short-lived. They had financial backing from a guy who sadly withdrew from supporting them. So the Subclones was a very short-lived exercise, sadly.
Yeah, because there was a lot of intrigue around it, right? I think they were all masked. Nobody knew who they were, and
Yes.
they had a great message. I think it was hope for a turbulent world or something like that. So
yeah. No, it's sad that they didn't, because what's the name of the other duo that wear helmets? I just can't think of their name right. You know what I mean, right? It's a bit Daft Punk, yes, of course. I think they actually preceded Daft Punk, and they could have been Daft Punk had they had the support that they needed been given. But sadly, that wasn't to be. But it was fun to work with those guys. They were really determined to make it. But like I said, their support was withdrawn. Their financial support was withdrawn, and they were unable to sustain it.
Yeah, it was quite a fascinating project. There was also an Alan Parsons album. I'm not sure if it came out, called The Sicilian Defense.
It did come out as part of a CD box set in order to give hardcore fans the advantage of knowing that they had everything we'd ever recorded. It's the Alan Parsons Project. It was never intended to be commercially released, as far as I was concerned. But the label were very insistent and said, "Well, we know it's a bit rough at the edges, but we would like to include it." So that's what they did. They included it. The Sicilian Defense is actually a series of chess moves.
Chess moves, yeah.
And Eric Woolfson was a very skilled chess player.
Yeah.
I played it several times and could never win.
I think what fascinated me even more was I saw the track listing, and they were all basically chess moves. They were, I think, positions on the board.
Yes, right. Exactly, yeah. But yes, I mean, it's what I would call a contractual obligation album.
Yeah.
Really wasn't intended to be released.
Yeah. But last question, Alan, this is from, a studio I do a lot of work with here, and they're all massive fans of your work. They wanted me to ask you, what advice do you have for upcoming engineers?
The hard fact of the matter is that commercial studios are dwindling away. I mean, there's commercial studios closing literally every month, which is terribly sad. Engineers are now expected to be able to record in the box through a computer. And I still encourage collaboration, despite the fact that can sometimes be difficult. But I think probably the future, if people want to be audio engineers, is to look outside the box, look out into television, theatrical situations, theaters, movies. There's plenty of room for engineers outside the normal realm of a recording studio. Because jobs in a recording studio are dwindling, as I say.
Yeah.
If you're good at what you do, you will always shine through.
Yeah.
Talented people will ultimately get the top jobs.
Yeah, but how important is so-called engineering technique, Alan, in the times that we live in? Everything is digital, right?
Technique is learned through experience. I'm rather pleased that I've managed to impart some of the knowledge from my past in a video series which we call the art and science of sound recording. So that makes me feel good. You know, like I said, just perseverance and the will to be the best at what you do is tremendously important.